Hopefully it's going to be improved, but let's get started. Okay, just give me some minute so I can just complete the setups. Okay, so yeah, do let me know if you can see me properly, you can hear me properly. All those looks like okay, everyone joining. And again, this is a sudden electricity was out, so I had to reset everything again. So yeah, give me just few minutes. I will just prepare the documents that I prepared for you guys. Just to make sure that is visible. Okay. Some weird technical difficulties I'm facing this day. Okay, worked. So yeah, when you're joining, do let me know from where you're joining. If you have any queries, do let me know that. Okay. And in the meantime, let me quickly download that. Okay. Okay, can see me clearly. Thank you. New message coming. Okay, looks like it all worked out. Uncertainties are there, but okay. Why would someone prefer using? Okay, this is a very good question. I will definitely answer that. Okay, why should go for DynamoDB over Redis? That also come. Okay, let me. Okay. Yeah, document also done. Let me lock it down and just come here. Okay, I have to log again for the presentation. Okay. Yeah, do keep the question coming. It's fine. I'm checking all that. Fully managed by AWS. Yes. Okay. Look like everyone joined and I can start the session. So let me get started. Okay. 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 So the very first question, I guess everyone must have. I think everyone should have in their mind first of all, who are specifically new to the DynamoDB. That what exactly is the DynamoDB? I mean, that's all the session about, right? So DynamoDB is a fully managed NoSQL database service that provides fast and predictable performance with seamless scalability. And we can use Amazon DynamoDB to create database table that can store and retrieve any amount of data and serve at any level of request traffic. And Amazon DynamoDB automatically spreads the data and the traffic for the table over a sufficient number of servers to handle the request capacity specific by the customer and the amount of data stored while maintaining the consistent and fast performance. Now, this is what you see by the definition. Now, in our understanding, what exactly it is? I mean, that should be the you know basic question level. Let's simplify this one. Okay. Now, to simplify this, Amazon DynamoDB is actually a fully managed NoSQL. NoSQL means key value storage. So if you have seen ever the JSON data, where you just have the key and then the value of that as a like key value parameters wise data you store there. That's what's the NoSQL. There is no relational data, and specifically. Why it is specially for DynamoDB is that you are not managing any servers. For example, if you have a MongoDB server, okay, that you have to actually manage the MongoDB cluster in a either Ubuntu or say Red Hat Feather or whatever is a in a machine or server, and there you actually have to install the MongoDB binaries. Could be the the free one, that is the I think for community, or maybe the enterprise based on your requirement. But here in the DynamoDB, it's a complete serverless solution, which means it's a AWS managing it for you, AWS giving you just as a interface where you can go ahead and create your DynamoDB. Of course, there is a way do that via some API and all. I will show uh, just after a few like 20 or 30 minutes. I will show that. So what I'm coming at here, you don't have to manage any cluster. Here you don't have to worry about the scalability. You don't have to worry about patching the servers, because you don't have to because patching, you have to always. Otherwise, if you don't patch the security fixes and bugs, it can get hacked, and a lot of complexities are there, right? But for DynamoDB specifically, you don't have to manage any such things. This is completely managed by AWS. You're just they're giving you interface to interact with the database. You go ahead and create tables. You go ahead and store the data, like writing the data. You go ahead and retrieve the data, and we'll come to more details later on. But just simply think about it's a complete serverless DB, complete serverless NoSQL DB, where you usually store key store values. Just like in your mind, think about a JSON. Okay. Now, I will come to more details one by one. The like how DynamoDB works should be another your big query, right? So again, it's a powerful key value store. It fully managed NoSQL key value document or database. Let me actually give us an example of what the key value exactly looks like. Otherwise, I think it will be very confusing for many, right? Hope you guys can see the browser. And this is the JSON editor actually. It's a very good one. From the beginning of my technical journey for any JSON related requirement, I use this site. So a key value is technically look like this. Okay. You have your this is it's now think about the JSON JavaScript notation, a JSON value. This is the key. Okay. Key, say for example, sample key, and this is the value, say XYZ or something, whatever it is. Okay. So it looks like this key, and this is the value. Okay. Now, ideal formatting, suppose it's in a table, so it will be like this in an array of records. Say there is a student table. Okay. So student, what should be the requirement name? Say Ram or something like that. Say age, for example, then its number, so 20 or 30, whatever it is. So this is the way you normally store a JSON data in any database. I'm giving a overview. In database, actually it's stored in binary or other you can say complicated formats and compressed formats. It's just example for you guys to understand what exactly is a key value storage. Okay. Now let me just silent my mobile. It's pinging too much and bringing the attention here. So just comment it out. Now, I hope you guys can understand what exactly I'm telling about the key store. Okay. So this is what a key store value look like, key and the value. This is how you also store in MongoDB. Now let's get back to presentation. So yeah, it's a fully managed NoSQL key value and documents database. Second point is scaling. So DynamoDB can scale to any read and write capacity we need as per the demand or provision. Now I will come to the what exactly on demand mean and what exactly provision mean. But just for you guys to understand, you can write any amount of data in MongoDB, and you can retrieve also any amount of data from MongoDB. Okay, there are some catch I will say, but it's okay. We'll come to that. Now another part here is the how it stored the data. So it stored the data across the AZs or availability zone, and DynamoDB actually stored 3 copies of data on SSD drives across 3 availability zone in a region. Okay, so you in mind always keep that part. It's very secure. It's have the big backups, and if we talk about the backups later on, it has a point in time storage, point in time recovery backup also. So that's also a very strong feature. Now again, we'll come to all that. We have 7 8 slides left, and I will show the demo also. So fine. I will not just show demo. I will show how we as an engineer make the work. Like we don't know everything, right? How we find the solution, that I'll show you guys. Okay. Let's see any particular questions coming. Okay, zoom it a bit. Sorry, I didn't. Okay. Okay, I will zoom next one. Next one, I'll show the demo. I will zoom it out. Okay. No worries. Now let's talk about the DynamoDB primary concepts. Okay, like if you are going to work with DynamoDB, this is the minimum basics you should know. Otherwise, you might not able to work with all the things. What happens, we jump into things and we don't know the basics. Then we, scratch here and there, and that's become so complicated later on. So let's focus on that part. What are the basic things? Okay, so if you're going to work in a MongoDB, then these are the three things you must understand very well. First thing is the tables. So similar to other data, talk about any database. Now you talk about say MySQL, you talk about MongoDB, you talk about Redis, whatever you check. You first create a table to store the data, and DynamoDB is no exception. There also you go and create a table, and you are storing the data in a table. Now, in other databases, I think you guys already know there is a more additional abstractions are called database. Like there is a database, then inside the database there is a table. Here only different. Here is no such databases. Yeah, directly you are maintaining the tables. That is the only noticeable difference, I will say. Okay. Okay, there is one question is that Cassandra DB and all. I will try to cover the end. Okay. Mm, yeah, so this is a very good example. Take a dictionary. I mean, if you guys work with some object or dictionary kind of data format, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the key value store, right? Okay. One another thing is that performance automation like read write using provision on. I will talk about that as well. You are okay. Okay. So first you understood that the most important first part is a table where you actually store the data. The second important thing is the items. Now, what are the items? So each table contains zero or more items. Now, again, item is nothing but the records. So just like I was showing you, right? This particular thing. So a record means if you look at the browser, I know it's very small, so I'll just zoom it a bit. I hope it's fine for you guys now. So you see this one name, and let's add another sample. Okay. Say for example, again name field. This is the attribute. Okay, or key. You can call key or attribute, and say Jack. Any example you can take. Age, say 30, for example. Now see, this is so this is items, right? So one item, and this is the second item, right? This is how it works. Okay, these are the items I'm talking about. First item, second item. So these are the actually items or records. Okay, this is what they are meaning. Let's come back to the presentation and see each table contains zero or more item I already shown you. Now an item is a group of attributes, the key fields that is uniquely identified among all the other items. Okay, now what is this simply means that see even in the this particular slide also there is a there's a people table, there's a people ID, there's a last name, first name, phone number. Suppose we can do an address, we can add another node that's address, you can see in the top. Address can have street, city, state, pin code, right? So this is how so this person ID, last name, first name, addresses, these are the attributes. Now I'm coming to attributes anyway, just the third important part. And the value are on the right hand, you're just giving codes and giving the value there. Now the third point is the attributes, which I'm just talking about. Now each item is composed of one or more attributes, of course. So each records that I even explain in the browser using the editor, and here also you can see in the top this people table that each record have its own fields, okay, or more attributes. An attribute is a fundamental data element, so it is a very basic data element, or the basic element you can say for the data storage. something that does not need to be broken down any further. So you can say it's the minimum brokenable or minimum explainable unit of the data. Okay, a field. Okay, and for example, an item in the people table contain attributes so called, say, the person ID, last name, first name, just like we explained. So now just make a sense out of it. Okay, so first is the attributes, say person ID, last name, first name, address, could be whatever it is. Okay, and which is this kind of bunch of these attributes. When you have, we have the records, okay, or items, and in a table we store that kind of multiple items. Okay, now this is the very basics. If you are going to work with any DB, not just DynamoDB or other databases, if you work with any database, this is the minimum basics. Okay, now close few things. Okay, I let me see if anyone have any any kind of question on that. Okay, screen black. I hope you can see the screen. Difference. So I hope you guys understood the differences between the tables and all, because that's very important. Okay, tables, where is the ultimate table where you store your records and records the items. Don't say anything at the moment. Strange. Do you guys facing any problem seeing the screen? I guess not, because I can see here. So let's see. If anyone having problem, do let me know. Okay. Oh yeah, this session is recorded, so no worries. Okay. Now let's go to the next. So I hope you understand the table, items, and attributes. Now the next thing. Okay. So this actually I wanted to explain a bit in a very in detailed way, and we are talking about here is the read and write consistency. I will come to that. Let's see if any question there is. No screen share. No screen share looking good. Okay. So it looked like everything working for other users. Someone having problems. Okay, so it's a very good question. Aditi is saying that how DynamoDB store the data in table, as it's stored data in JSON or key value. So it's stored in key value storage. I know key values are kind of synonymous to the kind of JSON kind of storage. Okay, so in JSON that I was showing the example, there is also key value storage. Okay, so you can think of key and value based. Okay, now let's come to the here. Let me make it a bit smaller. Because I have to explain these things, otherwise you cannot see. Okay. Now, what is read and write consistency? They understand that very well. So, Amazon DynamoDB is available in multiple AWS regions. Understand that very carefully. AWS store like have the Dynamo service in, say, in US, in Indian region, in Canadian region, in UK region, whatever you can, all over the world, right? Now, each region is actually independent and isolated from one other AWS regions. Okay, and every AWS region consists of multiple distinct locations called availability zone. So if you have the basic AWS idea, how that the global infrastructure for AWS. If you don't, I will simply try to look it. If you have a quick reference for that, AWS global infrastructure. I hope I have it. Yes, let me share the screen so that you can see it. See, so AWS have the global infrastructure map. You can see they have regions. So these are the regions in the green dot. Okay, multiple location in the world, and each particular location here, you'll see each will have, say, Ohio, Oregon, North California, Switzerland, London. All these places they have that availability zone. Okay, so that's what I'm coming at. That AWS and this particular DynamoDB service actually running in most of the this particular region and availability zones. Okay, now let's come back to presentation. Okay, so each ability zone is isolated from the failures in other ability zones. So each region have at least three ability zone, and each ability zone actually completely separate. Say in one ability zone having any problem, So other ability zone actually completely separate from them. Until it's a global issue, it should not affect. Okay, and provides inexpensive, low latency network connection to other ability zone in the same region. So it's kind of interconnected. Now this allow rapid replication of your data among multiple abilities in a region. So when you store the data in a say in DynamoDB, in that particular region, it's just have a copy across all these particular ability zone. So for example, one ability zone got burned, got storm happening, whatever happens, okay, it's okay, it can happen for one or two. It's impossible to happen all three. Okay, that way your data is 100% secure. Okay, and anything even happen, you can always get a copy from other ability zone, right? But understand, it's replicating, right? It's copying from one place to another place, or is having a sync up. Now when the application writes the data in DynamoDB table and it receive a HTTP 200 response code, which means okay. Okay, if you know the HTTP codes, this means that it's okay, the data actually is stored successfully. Then write occurred and it's durable. So what happening is writing the data in the DynamoDB, and is getting replicated to all the ability zone. Okay, so data is eventually consistent across all storage locations or ability zones, usually within a second or less. Okay, and this is the concept. So there is some second of kind of delay or kind of thing, right? The getting that written and getting, or maybe updated any data, and is a replication take only 1 or 2 seconds or less, but that takes, right, still it takes few seconds. So this is called eventual consistency. Now we'll come to the eventual and strongly considered reads. So when you are making any reads, okay, that you can because of this replication, when you're writing a replication takes time within a 1 second or less. That's why you have two kind of reads. First kind of read is eventually consistent reads. So what is eventual consistent reads? So eventual consistent reads, it's the way you see the data and is written immediately, but data can be inconsistent. So suppose you have written the student name is Sandip, for example, and next within a few seconds, like just immediately you make a change. Sandeep, no, it's not Sandeep. It could be Jack or other surname. And suppose immediately someone making query, even after the immediate read, within less than a second, it will still return Sandeep instead of Jack or other name that you've written. Okay, so that's it's giving you sometime error data if it's a eventual consistent. Okay, and because the copy of the data will be generally consistent in 1 second. If suppose that same query or same application query that made after 1 or 2 seconds, it could have get the name whatever you last saved. Okay, so there is some discrepancy, right? This is what eventual consistent read means. Now what is the strongly consistent reads? So strongly consistent reads will always read from the leader partition, since always it has the updated copy. So that means you are have multiple copies, it's getting replicated everywhere. But if you enable the strongly consistent read, it's read from the primary one where you are actually writing, and from there is returning. So which guarantees the data is always updated. Okay, I mean just have the latest data, that kind of thing. Now the data will never be inconsistent, but latency will be higher. So what it's saying for the eventual consistent reads, when you're making any queries, you are getting the data, the data as fast as possible with the expense of sometime you're not getting the latest data. But in the strongly consistent read, whenever you're making query or scans, whatever you're doing, you are getting data, but that takes a bit longer than the eventual consistent read, but it gives you the latest updated data. Okay, and it's guaranteed, like and copies of the data will be considered within a guarantee of 1 second anyway. But most cases, if it's a strongly consistent read, you will get the latest data whenever you're making the change. Okay, but the waiting time, the latency, you can say it will be a bit more than the eventual consistent read. So that is the concept behind this. And in different AWS exams, certification exam, even the normal interviews also, this gets asked by the interviewer. So always focus on that part. Okay, let's see if you have any questions or not. One question is that what is the difference between the DocumentDB and DynamoDB? See, DocumentDB is actually a fork of the MongoDB, and Dynamo is actually suppose you have MongoDB, you have MongoDB, you want to migrate to AWS and use a managed MongoDB kind of solution. DocumentDB is that for you. Okay, this is a managed MongoDB, is compatible with the MongoDB. You can simply have like whatever you have, just simply create one cluster DocumentDB cluster in AWS, and you can just get the URL and use that. That's what it is. And DynamoDB is completely serverless. You're not managing any cluster. You're simply creating table and storing data and retrieving it. That's what you're doing. You're not managing any cluster. That's the biggest difference. I think someone given even the difference between okay, some I think David given the compare also. So that's good. Can we do bulk cloud operation DynamoDB like PyStark or something with an option? Yeah, I mean there are lots of libraries. Just after a few minutes, I will share the link of those kind of libraries also. Already those things available. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So DynamoDB data types. This is another most important. If you're going to work with DynamoDB, if you're going to thinking of storing the data in DynamoDB, you should know what kind of data you can store, right? You can store kind of any kind of data, to be honest, but let's just understand a bit well. Okay, so DynamoDB support many different data types for attributes within a table. There can be categorized as follows. So let's understand this. So what are the kind of types and all? So the first one is the scalar types. Okay, a scalar type can represent the scalar types are like exactly one value, and examples are number, string, binary, boolean, and null. Okay, so these are the scalar data types. Okay, mainly when you work with either number, string, boolean. These are the things you work on. Sometimes you work with say nested data type or say JSON data. We're coming to that. That we call document types. A document type can represent a complex structure with the nested attributes. This kind of JSON structure inside a JSON structure. So let me actually show you quickly, so we can make sense of the document type meaning. For example, you are seeing this two data type, right? Suppose when I'm talking about say complex data type or a JSON data type, say address. Okay, and address will have say street, say any say our local is Salkia, for example. Okay, then home, you can see the building. Okay, I'm giving some junk value, say the pin code. Okay, so this is a complex data type. Okay, so this is a document type or complex, or another is a JSON data inside. You can call it full complete JSON. Now to simplify, you can call it a nested object, a nested mapping. You can call it different way. Okay, and it's look like this. So you have name, age, and address has this kind of values. Okay, this is how it looks like. This is the nested object. Okay, yeah, or the document type that we are talking about. Let's come back to presentation. Yeah, so this is a document type. A document type can represent a complex structure with nested attributes, just like I've shown. Nested attribute, such as you will find in a JSON document. Document type are list and map. Now the one I've shown you actually map. List means simply the array items. Okay. Now set types. A set type can be represent multiple scalar values. The set types are string set, number set, or binary set. Okay. Now when giving example, I will show you guys. Okay. No worries on that. Let me see if any questions till now. Audio is trying a break for getting some static. Is it? I don't know. Audio breaking? Really? I hope it doesn't break. Is it still breaking? Can someone confirm? Sound is not clear. It's look like proper one. Okay, guys, confirm. Okay, no issues. Someone facing, someone not facing. I don't know why it's happening. Today is kind of unfortunate. So just confirm me, guys, once that the voice is okay. Voice is clear now. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. 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 Now we talked about the scalar types, which is ultimately number, string, binary, boolean kind of data on null. Document type, when you see the nested data type, either list or map. I have shown you the map example. Let me quickly show you the nested array example, or you can, there's a list kind of data. So list means, say you have um, IDs, for example, IDs, right? So what kind of IDs we have? We can have, so this is the array item or list type. When you have, say, PAN, we have Aadhaar, right? We have driving license, BL. This is how a list kind of list look like. This is a mapping, and this is a list data. So we can store any kind of this kind of data as this document. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now, let's go to the next slide. So, DynamoDB read write capacity mode. I think I talked about this in the starting of the of the beginning slide. Now let's understand this very carefully. Okay, and Amazon. So let's say Amazon DynamoDB has two kind of read write capacity modes for processing read and write to a table. So ultimately, we're saying when you're writing any data in a table, that's called a write, of course, and you're reading any data from table, it's called read. That's very straightforward. I hope you guys understand that part. Now there are two ways you can do that in MongoDB, say in DynamoDB. One is on demand, and the second one is the provisioned. Okay, and just to make sure, on demand is always usage basis. As you use, you have to pay. Provisioned is default. There is a free trial available. I will come just after this basic discussion done. I'll come to the cost anyway. Then I will show you. Okay. So in on-demand mode, the capacity is like on-demand capacity is pay per request. So when you were requesting, you're doing, say, read and write, you're paying for each read write. Okay, so that you pay for what you use, to be honest. And on-demand is suited for new or unpredictable workload. Suppose you're doing some rapid application development where you don't know how many reads or write can be there. You don't know, simply you don't know when you're studying any application. Specifically for startup people, they don't know how much write or read gonna happen, or how much capacity they need. After, say, 1 year or 2 year of observing, monitoring, then it's okay, this is our expected usage. So that's a different case, right? So the throughput is also limited by the upper limits. For example, 40K read, RCU means the read capacity unit, and WCU means the write capacity unit. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, so yeah, the throughput is only limited by the default upper limits for a table: 40K RCUs, read capacity units, and 40K write capacity unit. If you go more than that, then you will see error like throttling error and all that. Okay, so yeah, as I'm saying here also, throttling error can occur if you exceed double our previous peak capacity, high watermark, within 30 minutes. For example, if you previously peak maximum 35 operations like read write per second, you could not peak immediately to 90,000, but you can do 60,000. So 60 is fine, but if you go more than that, you will get some throttling error. They will set blocking. They will block. They'll start giving you throughput throttling exception kind of error. Okay, and since there is no upper, like no hard set limit, on demand could become very expensive based on emerging scenario. So what are the scenarios? Suppose you have an open to all application and you don't have in application some kind of limit. You didn't set any limits. Okay, and suppose some hacker got to know that, what they will do, they will keep writing and writing and writing. That will make you like chunk value, they'll keep posting. If you don't have, say, IPv limiting, or say DDoS attack limiting, or this kind of security practices in there, what they will do, your bill will go exponentially high. So to avoid that, you can of course go and use on demand, but make sure you have the limiters in place. Maybe some applications that limiters. So from one particular IP, you cannot have more than 100, 1,000 or 2,000 reads and write. This kind of thing you should implement. Okay, if you are going to go for the on-demand mode, provision is different. So for provision, let me minimize this part. Yeah, so provision throughput capacity is the maximum about amount of capacity our application is allowed to read and write per second from a table or index. Provision mode is good option if you have the following are true. You have predictable traffic, application traffic. For example, if you know that this going to be my maximum read and writes, in that case, now we run application which traffic is consistent and ramp gradually. So it means that we know our application usage traffic pattern. Now we can forecast capacity requirement to control the cost. So this is when you know how much usage going to be there. On those cases, you use the provision. But in provision also you have the option to enable auto scaling. For example, for certain use cases when you need more than what you usually require, then it should scale automatically. Those options are already available in the DynamoDB as well. Okay, so when going to the console and checking, I'll show you. Okay, let me see if any questions. um, is there any MongoDB session you done? Not yet, Hussein. Maybe in the future we will do. Okay, not at the moment. Okay. Um, let's go. So that is the DynamoDB read capacity most also important, because many people actually start utilizing DynamoDB and they don't have any idea what this kind of capacity mode mean. So this is very important and to understand. Otherwise, you might end up in a lot of huge bill in your hand. So that's the reason. Okay, let's go. This is another, you can say, big thing or big important thing. I'll go very slow. If you guys have any, like, this is one of the most important part. If you have any confusion or something, certain kind of that, you do let me know. Okay, this is very important. Now, what exactly as keys and indexes? I will come to that. Okay, so what is the primary key? First thing is the primary key. A primary or say simple primary key composed of one attribute. So, and if our table has a simple primary key or partition key table, dynamically store and retrieve the each item based on the partition key. Now, um, a primary key, you can see the one unique key or say or uniquely identified hash key, because we call it this primary key as a hash key also. And in DynamoDB, we store that particular, I mean, there is to retrieve the data. If we do that by the primary key, it will be a lot faster than any other attribute. Okay, and here another important part is that you should try to keep it as unique as possible. Anyway, suppose you're not maintaining any, when I'm coming to composite key, you should not have this kind of combination of keys, and in that case primary key has to be unique. If you don't do that, your data will get overwritten. Okay, that's another gotcha. Like a lot of people actually face issue. They didn't think about, and they keep writing the same data in a particular primary key, and then data get overwritten. Okay, it happened with a lot of people. Okay, so that's the reason primary key or a simple primary key composed of one attribute, so that should has to be unique. If it's there is no other composite key available or short key available. If our table has a simple primary key or partition key, DynamoDB store retrieve each item based on the primary partition key. So this primary key is actually meaning of the partition key as well. Okay. Now, the second one is the partition key or short key, and partition key plus short key. We call it composite primary key. Okay, or you can call it composite partition key as well. Okay, naming can be anything. Okay, just understand the concept really well. Now, this is composed of two attributes: primary key, that is also known as a hash key or hash short key, and sorry, that's called the hash key. And there is another thing as short key, which is known as the range. Okay, now, DynamoDB uses partition key value as input to an internal hash function, and the opt-out from hash function determine the partition which the item will be stored. Now, this is just the definition. I will explain it more simple way. Don't worry. Don't get scared from the definition. Now, all items with the same partition key are stored together in sorted order by the short key value. If no short key used, no two item can have the same partition key value. Now, what this jargon, technical jargon mean? Technical, this all this means when you are storing the data. Okay, say example, you are storing, you are creating a student record. Okay, so you are getting post record. Okay, let me show you. Actually, that will be easier to explain. Okay, what this means. Suppose I'm just deleting this and say I'm using an example of a post. So a post normally what have they have the title of the post. Okay, say Johnny Depp, uh, Johnny Depp win. Okay, or hooray Johnny Depp win, for example. Okay, now the title and say it has a description or whatever you can call it, the content, whatever you call it. I'm just giving a young value. Now, here we should have a key called the post ID. can give it underscore ID, or you can keep it whatever the practice you're following. Do that way. I will not dictate on that. Now, partition key has to be something unique. Okay, this kind of hash. Okay, you can generate. You can use the EUID. Like all the standard programming libraries had this kind of unique ID creation libraries. You can use and make sure to do that. Okay. Now this is the way you can make different say Johnny Depp versus Amber. Okay, and key just make some random key. Now these are the keys actually are you are calling primary key, unique in nature. Now uh, you can sort these records based on times and dates, right? And that will make the retrieval much faster. Okay. So why is because suppose you are making sometime you need to get the data faster. Otherwise, if you go through all the data, you don't have any shorting or such, that will increase the latency, which we don't like, right? So to avoid that, you can have a say create time. Okay, it will be date value here. Okay, or you can have a say update time. Okay, where you have the date value here. You can do the same for this also. So now you can create any of these, say update time. You can use the update time as a short key, so that whatever is the latest post you can get by this combination of the update key and the post ID. This is what I'm calling about a composite item, composite key. So using two these keys, we are retrieving the data faster. Okay, that's the main concept here. Now let's get back to the post. And now what is the saying that cannot be two items can have the same partition key or same primary key. So what it's saying, so here you cannot have, if you are not maintaining a combo of say post id and update time, you cannot have this as a same value. You cannot have say xxx, or say xx will be not good thing, say 1 2 3 4 5 whatever it is. You cannot have the same value. If you do that, it will throw error. Okay, if the say value is the YIY and the same value for the date value here is the exact same thing, then it will throw error. So that is not possible. If you're if you only have the partition key in that case. Okay, or even so if you have the composite key, this cannot be same. Okay, it has to be something different. XY. So I'm just adding a different in case it's a composite key. If you don't have this key, say or these two timings keys, having like you have no short keys. In those case, this value can never be the exact same thing. You cannot do that. Okay, that is why it's important. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, now we talked about primary key, which supposed to be a unique key. Always do maintain as a unique key, otherwise it will be problem. And then we have the partition key plus short key, where like having any date, you can do shorting things, right? So we can call it composite primary key. And the third thing is the secondary indexes. Now, what is exactly the secondary indexes do? This let us query data in the table using an alternative key. Normal cases, you can use primary key, you can use composite key, which is a mix of primary to short key. But we have certain requirements where these two keys are not enough. We certainly have those kind of requirements. There we have the secondary indexes come to the picture. So in addition to query against the primary key, we can create one or more secondary indexes in the table, which will help us to get the records faster. Okay. Now there are two kind of indexes. Now think why I'm coming there, because you can have millions billions of records where you cannot just always able to retrieve the data by primary key. You may sometimes need the secondary key. That's much more practical. Okay, now there is two kind of indexes. One is the global indexes. Let me just move myself a bit up. Okay, so there is global secondary index, index with the partition key and short key that can be different from those on the table. Okay, and local secondary index, now an index that has the same partition case table but different short keys. So the short key, instead of dates and all, you can have other attribute as a short key for those cases. We can define 20 global secondary indexes and I think 5 let me just quickly confirm. we can have, yes, just to confirm, 5 local secondary indexes. Okay. um One question's coming. So yeah, so it's saying the hybrid engineer late. Yeah, this is getting recorded, so no worries. Another good question actually, that is the primary key and partition key same? Yeah. So yeah, this is synonym. So primary key and partition key are same here. Okay. Um, One question, another is here. As another greeting of the day, please make a stream on AWS. I am really getting NDP resource. I will come to that. Like there is one particular session available in the YouTube from I think AWS employee only. AWS I am deep dive. You can try that out. Really excellent. Okay. Otherwise, we can later on anyway try that. Another question is that from Hussein, completely strange question. Sorry for that. We are. What are the tools we need for automation? Prerequisite note for. Okay, I will come to that as well. Don't worry. Because this is very important things, so I will definitely come to that. One question is the slide share in the Google Drive? I will try to share in say in Google Drive or in the GitHub. I have to share the code anyway in the GitHub, right? So I will do that. Okay, so I hope you guys understood what I'm talking about, the primary key, partition key, and secondary indexes. Anyway, we'll show the demo while you go ahead and create in AWS console. You'll see that. Okay, so another important now come to that scan and query. Like you're writing in DynamoDB. I will show you how you write it. Anyway, you have to try it out yourself, all that. But once you're writing the data, you have to retrieve it to for say getting fetching in the application to show to the users, right? There is two way you can do that actually. First way is that scan. Now I will just go with the definition. So two way you can get the data from DynamoDB. That is scan and query. Our table should be designed such a way that our workload primary access pattern do not use scans. Why you shouldn't use so much of scan? I will come to that as well. Overall scan should be needed sparingly, for example, and infrequently. Because sometimes if you need it for say reports and all, then only should use it. Now scan actually when you are running a scan in a DynamoDB, scanning to all the item in that particular table, then returns the one that you're matching to the filters. Okay, I will show you. No worries on that. Now the second thing is by default returns all the attributes for every item. Use projection see project expression to limit. Suppose if you're running a scan in a particular table, it return all the attributes. Now to make it faster and just use whatever is or you can say the limitation, you put limitation on the number of attributes so that you don't get overwhelmed. You can utilize the project expression. Okay, now I'll be explaining all this, what are these things and all, so don't worry on that. Now scans are sequential. You can speed up a scan through parallel scan using segments and total segments, so you can make the scans faster. Anyway, you first try to the basic, then in the later when you keep working on working, you will find a lot of solutions. Okay, I'll come to that as well. Scan can be slow, especially with large database, very large tables, and can easily consume your provisional throughput. So when you're doing scan, it use a lot of read credits. Okay, now this is about scan. Now what is a query? Now query is a find item based on primary key value. So if you have a primary or primary plus short key, for those you use the query. Table must now a very unique example could be you have a list of items. Now you want to fetch one item's more details, then use the query. Okay. Now table must have a composite key in order to enable to do query, of course. By default, so what it means that you usually want to get your data in a sorted order, right? So you should maintain a particular short key in order to fetch the data. That's what it's saying there. Okay. Uh, what is that? One use case short key. Suppose you have student age, so you want to get a like you already have one primary key, say student ID. You have a second short key, say the uh, adding time or say admission time, those kind of things. Now you want to short the or say phase the data based on the age. You can, in that case, you already utilize the primary key. You already utilize the that particular short key. Now to fetch the data faster and more accurate, you have to use secondary key. That's one of the very good example. For age, now I'm giving age example. Suppose you want to get age of the student that have only age more than 20, less than 20, or just those kind of things. But there can be other fields also where you want to add secondary key to get the data faster. Okay. Um, Okay, now let's come to the query. By default, you get all the attributes to each item found in the query. Again, you can use the project expression to limit the what are the fields you are getting in the return. By default, it's stored in ascending order. So use secondary forward index to false to reverse order. So if you want to get the like default, it will come in the ascending order. You can just make that scan index forward false. Then it will do in the descending order. Easy, right? So you can actually, you have to try those things out in your programming if you want to understand how this works. That makes more sense. Otherwise, I will tell you, you will forget. So try that out in the different libraries. Then it will be more use case. Okay, so let's just discuss the DynamoDB use cases. Then we will jump on the coding. Again, before coding, I will take you some questions. I will answer them, and I will show how to set up the project environment. Like, you are a complete novice, how you get started. I will not show any existing code because that will make things more complicated. If I show you already built up codes, I will try to fetch some sample codes and time to run. We'll see what are the difficulties we face running first time. Then we'll that will be more related to you guys who are starting first time. Okay. Before going that, let's discuss the use cases. Of course, application data storage. You have any kind of application, specifically IoT application or rapid application, like rapid storage application, where you don't have time to design the schemas. You just quickly experimenting the application, quickly getting tables. You are not making any. You don't have a relational DB requirement. Those cases, in those kind of application, you go ahead and do the DynamoDB, where you can utilize the NoSQL data storage mechanism there. Okay, analytics. So DynamoDB is a key value storage. Of course, by now you understand that, and support a wide variety or any kind of data types, and it has a very fast data retrieval based on is it on demand. Even if it's just provisioned, it will be usually faster, which makes it suitable for storing data from different demand resources and quickly fetch the data and then pass the data to analytics tool. That will make things faster. Log storage. So while using DynamoDB, we pay for the storage only. Suppose because we are not paying for the CPU, we are not paying for the memory because we are not handling any of that, right? You are only paying for the storage of, and say, read and writes, right? That's where you don't have this kind of extra cost. Okay, so many people actually use the log storage. DynamoDB also used for the cache and storage, cache and session storage. Even I am using DynamoDB for many session storage, even specifically for web server application, or where we have to manage session for user sessions. There I'm utilizing the DynamoDB. Okay, so I will show you anyway. Now, I think this audio backup and static, maybe this related to the platform utilizing. Previously, I was not facing all that. Now we are facing. I don't know why. I hope it's not a problem for everyone. Okay. Anyway, so we understand the use case, right? Mainly, like any kind of application you're developing. Specifically, if you like, other than the normal application usage, you can use for the analytics. You can use log storage. You can do cache session storage, right? You can do all that. Now, quickly, I will see any questions. If you guys have any questions, do let me know. I will quickly cover, and then we'll jump to the SDKs and all those complicated parts. Okay, programming. There's a programming part. Okay, where you understand how to use, like how to say write data, fetch the data, those kind of things we'll explore. Before that, if you have any questions, do let me know. I think one question I say that I will answer later on. Let's see if I can get that one now. On demand, if you utilize, it will shoot the costing high. That's why you try to use a provision one. But before, at least you need 2-3 months of the usage pattern. Then you can decide. So the beginning is fine. When things go for a few months, you can move to the provision. At least there is a 24 hours gap. You can switch between the provision to on demand. So that's the only limitation we have. Now let's we discuss about the DynamoDB cost part. I think that's another important part. DynamoDB cost. Let's go by the official website. Okay, let me share the screen so that I can show you guys the costing part. So DynamoDB charges for reading and writing and storing data in DynamoDB tables, along with the optional feature you choose to enable. DynamoDB have two capacity modes, which come with specific billing option. You remember now, on demand and provision. Now these are the things. Now, see the pricing for on demand capacity mode, pricing for provision capacity mode. You have there additional pricing. You can actually utilize this calculator to check the DynamoDB pricing. So let's say create estimate. This is how we actually create estimate for any service. Okay, DynamoDB. So click on configure. Then what are the features you need? Do you want to use provision, or do you want to use the on demand? So let's go with the on demand first. Okay, and disable the provision one. Now additional feature, whenever you enable the streams, backup restore, and change data captured, export SD, based on the feature you more use, you have to pay more. Now you can always come to this particular page. Let me quickly get to you guys. And there you can have it. I don't know. Today I think you guys are facing a lot of noise. I don't know exactly why it's coming. Okay, so let's continue. So table class, you can have standard and standard frequent access. If you go for this one, of course, this will be cheaper, but always remember this is standard 1A. That means in storing the one availability zone. If data get lost here, it will be lost. Standard, make sure 3 copy, so it is much more much more secure. You can have a guarantee to get the data back. Okay. Storage size, for example, storing 100 GB. Average item size of attributes is KB. Say 2 KB for it. I think usually it's never exceed for more than 1 KB. But if you have a high requirement, you just calculate that way. So for 100 GB into 0.25, data storage cost will be 25 USD. Just the storage cost, okay? Not the retrieval, all those costs, just the storage. Now, average item size, we are saying 10 KB, for example. It will not change much cost. It will not change the cost, okay? So that doesn't matter actually much. The matter will happen when you have the standard write. So how much write person you want, how many transaction write will be there, number of the writes. You suppose you are writing in a table, say 1 lakh time. Okay, 1 lakh. See, sorry, 1 million per month. So for that, it will cost you 1.25 USD. Now, suppose you are making 5 million writes. Okay, it costing you 5 million. So it's kind of cheaper that way. But don't think if you have like on-demand write setting for you're writing 5-10 million. If hacker knows is open, they may write so many million you don't know, and the bill can go very high. Now the read setting, suppose you are reading say 1 million. See what will be the cost. For 1 million read, it will be 0.13 USD. Say it's 10 million, say 5 million for example. It's just 0.60. So these are not that high, but if you keep it open to other people, like everyone, that it could be a different scenario. So always plan before actually utilizing. Now this is on demand. What if you use the provision? So just enable the provision and disable the on demand. Now data storage for 100 GB or any GB that like you store 1 GB, it's 0.25. You store 100 GB, it's the $25. So storage cost is always the same. The write capacity here is this different. Okay, so how much maximum read you say peak write you want, and how much peak read you want, all this thing you have to configure. Based on that, calculation happens. So for example, you have 100 non-conditional write, baseline rate per second, peak duration of peak write activity 72 hours per month. So and percent of baseline write, it will cost you this calculation you have to go through. Okay, say 150 USD. Now, these are the assumptions. Okay, these are the assumptions. How much guide, how much peak rate, baseline rate, all those things you have to consider before choosing. Similar way, read also the similar. We have to have your own requirement. How many should be strongly consistent read? How many will be normal reads? Okay, and what is the baseline and what is the peak rate? Max in the maximum number of reads per second your workload need to during. How many should be your peak hours? All this configuration you have to do to get the final cost of the reading cost. Okay, so uh, again, it's you in with DB provision capacity, DynamoDB provision capacity, you can make a limit there. Okay, it will not exceed the limit that you set. But for on demand, even if you're seeing per million is not that costly, but think of 100 million, 200 million, if things goes on, it will be high cost. So always remember that part. That's why understanding cost of very important for be a DevOps engineer, be a cloud solution architect or cloud engineer. Understanding of the cost is important no matter what. Okay. Now let's come back to the presentation and let's see if there is any still any. Okay, voice not clear. I don't know what happening. I have no idea. Hmm, It's happening for the YouTube guys or LinkedIn both. I really have no idea. Just need change the microphone. So guys, confirm me that you guys can like voice is clear or not. Just confirm me that voice is clear or not. Is it clear, guys? Or okay, it's clear then, right? Okay, not clear. Ah, in that case, if it's not that clear, I don't have much away right now. Uh, it will be not clear. Okay, guys. Then I will quickly, show you how to configure this. Like I will show you how to configure the SDK, how to get the SDKs, and I will wrap up the session. Maybe this coding part because most important. I will make a separate recording, not a live. In live, is no guarantee, right? Okay. So I will quickly show you guys how to configure the different SDKs. Again, bear with me. I know there is disturbance, but I don't know where the disturbance coming from. So not much I can do now on those. Okay. Now, for see, like any first, let's go to the AWS SDK that you understand. Then I'll come to the DynamoDB SDK. So there are support for C++, Go, Java, JavaScript, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. So all support available. What you have to finally ultimately do, choose your own like whatever you have requirement. Say for Node.js or Python, usually we go for that one. Now that have C for Python, I'm selecting. Have AWS SDK for Python, AWS IoT SDK for Python. Data, a lot of things are there. Mainly focus on the AWS SDK for Python. Similarly, if suppose a Node.js, you only have one option, the AWS SDK for Node.js. Now, the moment you click on this particular link, it will open and will say how to get started. Okay. Now you can go here and see first is install pip install boto3. You install boto3 and suppose a Python in that case, install the boto3, and you can now for the documentation you can click on the documentation and will come to here. Okay, now search for the DynamoDB. I hope you guys can see it. Search for DynamoDB. See DynamoDB. Now it has all these kind of functions. Now you have to utilize these functions. So for example, create table. So simply search for create table. Direct table creation is not there, but okay, you can just go to the DynamoDB. There we will just look at the functions. Say create table, it should be create underscore table like that way. Describe table to understand that this table exists or not. Those kind of things. Get item to get that item. List backups to have, like get and list the item. list backups. So if you have any backups, to list those all these functions are available. Update item to update the particular records and all. Now I have made some example. I will just quickly show you guys. I will share all these, functions and everything in a, like, I will create a separate, since the voice is not clear today and a lot of other technical difficulties. I will simply make a different session just for the coding part, because that's the most complicated part, and have all this example now I'm showing. I will store in some GitHub and I'll share you with you guys. Okay. Again, sorry for the disturbance. It's unexpected. I don't know how to solve this right now. uh, Hope you guys can see the code. So say first a create table. So first I'm importing, this is the Python one. Okay, importing a Boto3. Then to create table, I'm first creating a client using say, DynamoDB Girls 2 Boto3.create.resource and DynamoDB. Then I'm simply utilizing DynamoDB.create table. Then I'm giving table name. Then I'm key schema. So what should be the attribute name? Say the primary key. If the primary key is ID and key type is a hash key, and attribute definition, id should be numbered. In case it's a string, simply say it's s, then it will be a string type id. All those things I want to explain in greater depth, but maybe today it will be not possible, unfortunately, for technical difficulties. Now here the provision throughput, if you don't give this provision, then it will become a on demand thing. Okay, so these are the things here. Similarly, suppose you want to like write any item, you can use the update item. You have only one method. If you look at the functions, you will not see a create table. You have create item, but you don't have a create item. Okay, you have to use a function called update item to write also. It's update. Okay, because it's the key value storage. Think the conceptual way you can think of as a S3. You are storing data in S3. In S3, you simply put an item to write that item, right? Similar concept here. So you have just give your keys, then update expression, if any expression attribute values you're supplying those, and return value updated new, whatever the new value is coming. So again, here I will, since the technical, see the difficulties are still there or not. Let's quickly check. Is there any still in technical? Okay. No, no, now clear. Okay. So yeah, so these are the things, and setup is actually really easy. uh, Simply set up the SDK. All this SDK setup documentation are here in the previous page. Like, come here, all the setups, install it, and then simply import the Boto3 if it's the Python, and utilize that. For Node.js also you have the libraries available. Let's go back. uh, Node.js. Again, I'm not showing today more because of the ongoing technical difficulties. I will show you separate session. So what I will do, just to compensate this, I will make separate session, one for Node.js and one for DynamoDB. Okay, so Node.js and one for the Python using DynamoDB, just to compensate for this session not being so great today. Now here, user get started with SDK for JavaScript. Yeah, this one. There is a separate site documentation. Let me just quickly search. Ultimately, you have to just get the SDK, Node.js, DynamoDB. NPM, you started DynamoDB SDKs. There is a separate documentation I'm searching. You have the code examples anyway. So ultimately, you are using DynamoDB client from the AWS SDK. Then you are setting up the region, configuring the client. Now, let me go down. Say you are updating item. I mean, creating item, you have to use the update item anyway. So that you're doing in the params, you're supplying table name, what the table name that you're writing to, keys, the title, year, any other primary keys that you're mentioning, you can do all that. Then your DynamoDB send, and there's actually doing the write for you. It's not have the complete one. Let me quickly check if I can find Node.js, DynamoDB, AWS SDK. This one is actually the main SDK for Dynamo. Here you have all your functions. Okay, now here you will find like how you're configuring DynamoDB was a new DynamoDB, that like any other say update item. Yeah, see this one. You're passing the parameters. See, these are the function you're supplying the parameters. All you are doing. Um, Make sure to understand B, meaning of B, L, M. Again, when we have the separate session, I will cover all things anyway. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do today show, but again, today's all this technical difficulties, so I will simply show. So, suppose you want to work with the serverless DynamoDB, so you can go for AWS serverless DynamoDB GitHub example. You'll find, or you can say AWS serverless serverless framework example. I know there is. Seen. I've tried multiple times. I have actual code, but that I'll show in the other separate session. Serverless framework examples GitHub. If you go to this particular GitHub example, look for the Dynamo. I think here is the DynamoDB anyway, but this is the for Golang. So DynamoDB .NET Node Python Express. Okay, this is example. So if you look at the handler.js, you'll see how they're defining, how they're getting it, how they're creating or say updating. Ultimately, they're putting using the put function to write that in database and using promise for the async habit. So all these examples are actually there. I use this example for the demo anyway because I cannot show the actual client codes. So that's why I use this demo codes. You have this like creating the record, fetching the record, all that in this example. Similarly, if you look for the Python DynamoDB, you should have the example for Python also. Node Python. See, Python, AWS Python Flux DynamoDB API, and look at the app.py file. You'll see how they're like how they're dealing with that. Get item, uh, create user say they are writing like using the put item function to write to the particular table, like say user ID and name they're writing. So again, in that separate session, when we like have, I will record there. I will make sure to have all this. Okay. Now, just to you should have the example of this and you can try out till I create separate session for you guys. I will. Okay. So simply check out this particular repo examples. Your whatever your requirements are, all the example codes, everything is actually available with this particular repo. That's why um, I wanted to show you and run all that. Unfortunate, I didn't able to for the signal difficulties. But separate recording, I will definitely bring up for all like for you guys. I will come with that. Okay. I know now. If the voice is clear, I don't know if it's really or not. Let me know if his voice clear. I will take some QA. Otherwise, we'll wrap the session and have the recordings separate for the actual coding session separate. One thing that please plan complete AWS like main services for DevOps engineer. I do actually. I did a few. Like last year, I did that same thing. Then I moved to my specialized topic, Kubernetes and all that, serverless, containerization, all that. But yeah, definitely I will think of but just particular DevOps engineer main service I will cover. Okay. Okay, guys. So yeah, I will then simply wrap up the session. I know again, sorry for all this unforeseen situations, some technical difficulties. Using Restream, I hope that previous last week what the problem happened will not happen. But I will come back. I will start using the StreamYard. That's the only place I didn't had this kind of problems. So I will simply go there. Okay. Thank you guys for staying this long. Again, just to make sure this slide plus like whatever we talked about and this particular things, this coding demos and all, like I will create separate recording with the coding demos. All will be available. So maybe next week I'll try to like by this week I'll try to record. Maybe just tomorrow I'll try to record and release for you guys. Okay. Okay. So we'll simply cover that one. One question is, I think, Hussein asking, consistent question. Sorry for that. What are the tools we need for automation and prerequisite? Note for DevOps. Note for DevOps engineer. Okay, so it's saying what are the tools we need for automation and prerequisites? Note for so for automation, say for the infrastructure automation, it will be better to use the Terraform, or suppose if you want to go for the AWS specific, any cloud specific, they have all their own tools. AWS have the cloud formation, Azure have the resources, Google have the cloud development kit. So all cloud have their own resource kits. What I will say, it will be better to utilize Terraform, which have the all cloud support anyway, all provider support. You can go for that for the infra part. For the say server automation or configuration automation, installing the software, maintaining some configurations, some binary files like authentication, creating users, updating users, and all that for the particular systems, you can go for the Jenkins. Sorry, not Jenkins, Ansible. For the build system automation, so that is another topic. Each cloud have their own CI/CD tools. You can go for that tools. Suppose you want to utilize some kind of common open source tool, you can utilize Jenkins for the CI/CD automation. So these are the main tools you utilize in the DevOps all these days. Okay. Prerequisites. Having Linux knowledge, I would say, is the most important one as a prerequisite. Um, I think, yeah, for the most of the tools like CI/CD tools, um, that's a, I will say, must-have prerequisite. That is a Linux skills and shell scripting skills. Otherwise, without that, you will find yourself in a lot of unforeseen difficulties. Having good knowledge in shell scripting and Linux will do a lot of good for you. Uh, for complicated scenarios, shell scripting are not enough. You will just pull your hair, and that's not practical. For those cases, you use any popular backend programming. I usually prefer either Python or Go, and sometimes I find myself easy. It's very super complicated. It might be easier to use JavaScript for this, handling complexity. I go for that. So either my first choice Python, second choice is Go, third choice is Node.js or JavaScript. Okay, that's how I handle the complexities. So yeah, self scripting, you'll find free code camp in YouTube have free tutorials, like free full length sessions, which they're covering really great. In Udemy also there are a lot of very good courses available. How to learn fastly. So what I do when I learn anything, I keep notes. Just like the notes you see that while I was learning DynamoDB, I keep all those notes. So you can do keep your own notes, which you can like utilize later on if you're forgetting something. Quickly make a reference from the note, and it will be a lot helpful with that. Okay, so keep do keep doing notes. That will help you learn faster and practice it. Practice a lot. Make some demo programmings and all. That will help you learning faster. Okay, so yeah, I'm wrapping up the session. I will simply do separate recording for the coding demos. Sorry, I didn't complete today. A lot of difficulties. I think everybody complaining the voice and all that problems. Again, sorry, it happens. Not everything in my control. Okay, and I will share this this particular slide with everyone later on. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye.